Hey everybody, I know like 19 of you have already seen this video because it was already posted to the Patreon back in Christmas, but YouTube recently changed the way their copyright algorithm works, and so I decided that it was a good time to go ahead and have this video uploaded to YouTube proper. So if you've already seen it, then I guess obviously you can just skip this video if you want to, or you can watch it so you can give me a little bit of a boost. And if this is your first time seeing this video, well, enjoy and have a happy Christmas in May. Welcome back to Untested Builds. We figure out how to build your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Like and subscribe for new builds every week. Comment below to suggest your favorite characters and join the Patreon to vote for your favorite suggestions. Assuming I stop procrastinating at some point, you're watching a bonus video on Christmas. In that case, Merry Christmas. We're almost done with 2020 finally. I had received a few requests to build a Grinch for Christmas today, but Tulak is building the Grinch today for D&D 5e over on his channel. And what would I look like trying to sneak in and take a character right from under another YouTuber's nose on the same day? So instead, we're building a character who decided to fill a void in his life by attempting to completely co-opt another successful person and adapt their community's culture to suit his own needs. Well, that got strangely introspective. As always, if you want to skip the character background, just jump to the timestamp on the screen now. Jack Skellington is a living skeleton who's the cultural leader of a town that is the physical manifestation of the holiday of Halloween. Every year, they get together and have some kind of relationship with the real world on October 31st. We assume they go out and just scare people, but it's not explicitly stated. Anyway, this particular year, at the conclusion of the holiday, in spite of the exaltations and excitement of the townsfolk, Jack quietly slips away before monologuing via song about how scary he is and how being the Pumpkin King is no longer satisfying and that he longs for something more to life. Wandering until the next morning, he stumbles on a forest with portals to other holiday-themed realms and decides to open the Christmas tree-shaped door. Fascinated by the snow, lights, cozy cabins, and the concept of presents, Jack decides to collect samples, i.e. steal, as many Christmassy things as he can and returns triumphantly to town to teach them the ways of Christmas. The whole thing starts off innocently enough, with the townsfolk being somewhat confused by the whole prospect, having only lived in a world of perpetual death and decay. Eventually, taking the concept too far, Jack decides to, instead of simply celebrating Christmas in Halloween Town, he can completely replace Santa's role and bring a bit of Halloween to the real world Christmas celebration. Conscripting the town to build a sleigh, make presents, a costume, and even having the town miscreants kidnap the real Santa Claus. Of course, when Jack starts delivering frightening and dangerous presents to children around the world, mass panic sets in, culminating in the military shooting Jack literally out of the sky along with his skeletal reindeer and his ghost dog. That seems to be just the wake-up call Jack needs to realize his role is as leader of Halloween and that only Santa can be the leader of Christmas. Upon returning to Halloween Town and discovering Santa and the girl who's got a crush on him, Sally, are being held against their will by Oogie Boogie, the previous owner of Halloween before Jack hit the scene, infiltrating his hideout and showing us just how inhumanely agile a meatless skeleton can be, Jack rescues the pair and Santa goes free to complete his annual mission and bring his world back to normal. Santa makes one final stop before heading back to Christmas Town to give Halloween Town their very first snowfall. How lovely. Notably, there is also a prequel video game which takes place the previous Halloween and features Jack and Oogie battling over leadership of Halloween Town. There's also a sequel video game that takes place a year after the movie when Jack leaves town to explore other holidays and Oogie takes this as an opportunity to not only take control of Halloween Town, but also kidnap and assume the role of every holiday leader. There's some other short stories and a comic book, but I wasn't able to find copies of those to thumb through. While all these extra stories continue the themes of kid-friendly existentialism and warning of the dangers of cultural appropriation, the real reason we're even considering the video games here is because we need a fighting style for the build. We know from the one actual fight of the movie that Jack is agile, but we never actually see him perform an attack or anything. He kind of just puts Oogie in a situation where he fails a bunch of saves before his true form gets put out by Santa. Completely different story in the games, however, but we'll get to those once we start going through the build. Speaking of, for our goals for this build, we need to not die since Jack is already dead and can take off his head, but he can still die again if his bones are ground to dust. Second, our whole culture is based on scaring people to within an inch of their life, and we're the most revered at what we do. Lastly, we have no flesh, making us impossibly skinny and mobile, able to dodge, squeeze, and skitter through any obstacles and hazards that sack of bugs might throw at us. For our ancestry, there's a fan theory that Jack is actually the main character from the movie Corpse Bride, Victor Van Dort, making him a human, but just look at the guy. You ever see a human shape like that? We're going to change it up and go catfolk. If you've ever shown a cat a Christmas tree for the first time, you'll notice how they also become instantly fascinated, then immediately begin working to destroy the very meaning of Christmas. Catfolk Dustwalkers gain boosted dexterity and charisma, a flaw in wisdom, and a free boost we'll take in constitution. They also get cat-like things like dark vision and land on your feet, meaning when we fall, we only take half of the fall damage and never fall prone. We'll take the return background from a boost to constitution and dexterity, since the only thing we know for certain about Jack is that he was definitely alive at some point and he's definitely not now. We get the Die Hard feat for free, meaning we now die at dying 5 rather than dying 4. For our Ancestry feat, Cat's Luck allows us to reroll a reflex save when we fail once per day as a free action. We're kicking this build off as the channel's very first Swashbuckler, which means we finally built every class from the Advanced Player's Guide. Rip Alchemist, Cleric, and Druid. Sorry. Level 1 Swashbucklers gain a boost to dexterity and gain panache whenever we perform acts of daring and drama for a couple of sweet bonuses. While we have panache, we gain a +5 status bonus to speed, a +1 circumstance bonus to skill checks that would normally give us panache, like tumbling through. And while we have panache, we can also perform precise strikes, meaning our agile and finesse weapons deal an additional 2 precision damage. While we have panache, we can also perform a finisher to deal 2d6 additional precision damage instead of the flat damage, but we can't make any more attacks that round. The precision damage also scales with our level, adding an additional damage or damage die with a finisher at levels 5, 9, 13, and 17. Confident Finisher lets us make a weapon or an arm strike. On a failure, we can still deal half our precise strike damage. We can also choose the Swashbuckler style to help determine how we gain our panache. We're nimble, no doubt, but we're all about that fear, and braggarts are able to gain panache whenever they demoralize a foe. We'll gain the Nimble Dodge class feat to gain a +2 circumstance bonus to AC as a reaction to an incoming attack we can see, provided we aren't encumbered. Probably won't be many fights where you're holding the giant bag of toys, but if one happens, probably drop it so you can get your mobility back. We use our skill trainer to grab athletics, crafting, deception, performance, and stealth, and for our ability boost, we'll increase our dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and charisma. The Intimidating Glare feat lets us demoralize foes with a scary face instead of needing to actually talk to them, meaning we don't have to worry about any pesky penalties from language barriers anymore. Antagonize makes us even more scary by making foes we've demoralized not be able to reduce their frightened conditions to less than 1 while it's perceiving us unless it makes a hostile action towards us. Level 1 Swashbucklers gain Great Fortitude for Expert Fortitude saves, Vivacious Speed to increase the speed bonus we gain from panache to 10 feet. This bonus increases by 5 feet at level 7, 11, 15, and 19, and we gain half of the bonus rounded down even when we don't have panache. Opportune Riposte allows us to make a melee strike or disarm a foe as a reaction whenever that foe critically fails a strike against us. We also get Stylish Tricks, which are extra skill feats we can take at certain levels, but they have to be for acrobatics or the skill related to our style. So in Jack's case, that includes Intimidation for the group coercion feat, so we can coerce 2 targets at once instead of just 1. Increasing to 4 once we get Expert Intimidation, just enough to frighten a certain trio of troublemakers into doing your bidding, and also the mayor. You don't mean to intimidate him, he just kind of has anxiety. We'll use our skill increase for Expert Athletics. We're not really a strength build, but we still need to jump good. We'll grab the Toughness feat for extra HP equal to our level and easier recovery checks to get one step closer to Indestructible Bone Man, which is a good name for Wolverine now that I think about it. Your character is only a few inches wide, but your GM might still make you squeeze through openings like you're some kind of flesh and blood cat man. The Quick Squeeze feat lets you squeeze 5 feet per round on a success and double that on a crit. The Flamboyant Athlete class feat gives us even more benefits while we have our panache, like gaining a climb speed and swim speed equal to half of our speed, reducing the DCs of long and high jumps by 10, and increasing our vertical leaps by 5 and our horizontal leaps by 20 feet. Normally, you think of jumping in to be more effective at scaring, but we really want to scare first and jump second, since panache apparently makes us part frog or something. Level 5 Swashbucklers gain Weapon Expertise for expert proficiency in simple and martial weapons as well as unarmed attacks, and we gain the critical specialization effects for those weapons. If you played Oogie's Revenge for PS2, then you already know what weapon we're going for. If you don't, then welcome to Untested Builds, where we finally made a character with a whip, since in that game Jack is equipped with a sentient ooze that can change shape into a variety of weapons, but usually is a gelatinous tentacle that can whip enemies as well as grab and throw objects. Our whip does most of that with the disarm, reach, and trip traits, and knocking targets prone on crits now. We'll use our skill increase for expert intimidation and grab the springing leaper ancestry feat to make us a bit better at jumping even when we don't have panache. Now we can leap as a 2-action activity to double the vertical distance, or 3-action activity to triple the vertical distance. This isn't just for height, however, we also no longer automatically fail on long jumps for not jumping the direction of our initial stride. We'll use our ability boost for strength, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Jack seems to know his way around a lab a bit, so we'll grab alchemical crafting to make our very own concoctions like Sally and Finkelstein. Alchemist Fire, Bottled Lightning, and Frost Vial let you get out the occasional elemental damage, and that's literally the only reference I'll make to Jack's Kingdom Hearts random spellcasting abilities. We still need one more, so go ahead and grab Spear Frog Poison too. Everyone knows there's nothing more suspicious than frog's breath. You know what else everyone knows? Jack Skellington's face. The celebrity dedication lets us take every opportunity to do our very best, especially if that best is better than someone else's best. Anytime we attempt to earn an income with a task that is higher than our level, we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the check. We also get the upstage reaction. Whenever a foe attempts a skill check and doesn't get a critical success, we can attempt a check using the same skill as the triggering foe. If we critically succeed, we gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls, perception checks, saving throws, and skill checks until the end of our next turn, proving that we really can improve on the original when we put our minds to it. Level 7 Swashbucklers gain evasion for master reflex saves and critical success results on regular successes, and weapon specialization for an additional flat 2 damage with our simple and martial weapons, as well as unarmed strikes. We gain another stylish trick we use for terrifying resistance, so when we demoralize a foe, we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against that creature's spells for the next 24 hours. We use our skill increase for expert acrobatics and grab the numb to death feat, so once per day when we would recover from dying, we regain additional hit points equal to our level and neither gain nor increase our wounded condition value. Virtuosic Performer gives us a +1 circumstance bonus whenever we make a performance check using our impeccable singing ability. If only we had Danny Elfman's orchestra to go with our voice. Vivacious Bravado allows us to spend an action to gain temporary hit points equal to our level plus our charisma modifier, provided we've gained panache that turn, because of course we needed even more health. Level 9 Swashbucklers gain Swashbuckler Expertise for Expert Class DC and Exemplary Finisher, meaning we can make an enemy who is currently immune to our Intimidate attempts no longer immune whenever we strike them with a Finisher ability. Because there's nothing more cringy than trying to scare someone and they just stare at you completely unfazed. We use our skill increase for Master Intimidation. It's kind of incredible that no one noticed the 8-foot-tall, slender man in all black slinking around the brightly lit Christmas town. Probably because he had the wary stalker feat to perform the scout exploration activity at the same time as the avoid notice activity. Our stealth isn't great by any means, but it'll be good enough to creep around a bunch of common halflings. At level 10, we'll use our ability boost for strength, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Nimble crawl is probably something every cat folk should just get, but doesn't. We gain a crawl speed equal to half our speed, upgrading to our full speed once we're a master in acrobatics. And we're no longer flat-footed while prone at legendary. Mostly grabbing this because during that one movie combat, he decides in his infinite wisdom that going full spider on all fours is a good idea when he's already demonstrated impeccable jumping ability. Actually, that's one of the more swashbuckler things you can probably do. Never mind, Jack, carry on with your daring do, so you can roll twice and take the better result on actions that will give you panache if you already have it. Because if one foe is really hard to scare, scaring their friend first might make it a bit easier. Level 11 Swashbucklers gain Vigilant Senses for Master Perception Proficiency and Continuous Flare, because why should our panache only be relevant during a fight? Now if we ever succeed at a check that would have granted us panache during an exploration activity, we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to further checks for actions that would grant panache. We use our skill increase for Expert Acrobatics and take the Impressive Performance feat so we can make an impression using performance instead of diplomacy, since even Jack knows when not to scare folks. We'll take the Hefty Hauler feat to increase our maximum and encumber bulk limits by 2 so we can carry even more toys to little Harry and Jordan since they've been good this year. We'll get another way to not die with Cheat Death so we can remain at 1 HP and not be knocked unconscious as a reaction to our HP reducing to 0. This comes with a pretty hefty price though. We gain the Doomed condition for 10 minutes, meaning it will be easier to die if we don't get out of danger quickly. Level 13 Swashbucklers gain Weapon Mastery for Master Proficiency in Simple and Martial Weapons as well as Unarmed Strikes. Light Armor Expertise to increase our light armor and unarmored defense to expert, and improved evasion for legendary reflex saves, failure results on critical fails, and half damage if we would take damage from a reflex save. We use our skill increase for expert deception. The light pause and stretch feat allows us to make a step then stride or a stride then step while ignoring difficult terrain, because you could step over literally anything with legs like that. Jack never goes without his 3-piece pinstripe suit worn under whatever his current outfit is. The backup disguise feat is kind of the opposite. You wear a disguise under your current outfit that you can switch into as a 3-action activity. But Jack does 2 quick changes in the movie and has a whole ability dedicated to switching costumes in both games he's the main character in, so just let me have this. We're grabbing another celebrity feat with Command Attention. By spending an action, we can pull all eyes within 30 feet towards us until the end of our next turn, meaning they gain a degree of success better on any visual saving throws they attempt. Any enemies specifically have to make a will save against our class DC to look away from us, meaning our allies can hide without concealment. Level 15 Swashbucklers gain Keen Flare for crits on attacks when we roll a natural 19 and greater weapon specialization for an additional 6 damage on our weapon attacks. We'll take the Terrified Retreat for our stylish trick, so now when we critically succeed on a demoralized action at a foe who is lower level, that foe is forced to flee for 1 round. We use our ability boost to increase our dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and charisma, use our skill increase for legendary intimidation, and take skill training in thievery so we can actually get into these homes we're trying to reverse burglarize. We'll take the quick coercion feat because we don't always have time for a full song to move the plot forward. Now we can coerce the creature with only 1 round of conversation instead of 1 minute. We'll take the battle cry feat so we can demoralize the foe as a free action whenever we roll initiative, and as a reaction whenever we critically succeed on an attack roll. Not sure what exactly Jack would say at the start of a fight, but when our whole kit is based around demoralizing enemies, getting to do it for free is too good to pass up. Deadly Grace makes our whip a bit more lethal. Now whenever we critically hit with an agile or finesse weapon, if that weapon doesn't have the deadly trait, which our whip doesn't, we add a d8 as if that weapon does have the deadly trait. Level 17 Swashbucklers gain resolve for master will saves and critical success results on regular successes, and a skill increase will take for legendary acrobatics. Duskwalkers are scions from the Boneyard, and Jack is known in some circles as the Bone Daddy. Coincidence? I think not. Boneyard's Call allows us to cast plane shift up to twice per week without a tuning fork, but we can only travel between the Boneyard and the material plane. Who's to say that denizens of Halloween Town aren't all psychopomps? We'll take the Catfall feat because while taking half damage from falling is okay, taking no damage is even better. Impossible Riposte allows us to use our opportune riposte against ranged attacks as well, deflecting some of the damage back at the attacker. We still make an attack roll comparing to the attacker's AC like normal, but if we succeed, we instead deal our damage in the same type as the attack roll that was made at us. Level 19 Swashbucklers gain Light Armor Mastery for Master Proficiency in Light Armor and Unarmored Defense, and Eternal Confidence for Master Swashbuckler Class DC. And now we can add the failure effect from our confident finisher to our opportune riposte, meaning if we fail, we can still deal half damage on our precise strike damage. We use our skill increase for expert performance and take the kip up feat so we can stand from prone as a free action without triggering reactions, which might be helpful if you do decide to crawl around on all fours during combat, since you usually won't be prone accidentally. At level 20, we'll use our final ability boost for strength, dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. The intimidating prowess feat is usually reserved for characters who look like they can break your bones, not guys who are made of bones. But since we have the strength and we're like 9 feet tall, we might as well use it to our advantage and take a +1 circumstance bonus to our coerce and intimidate checks that our physicality could play a factor into. For our capstone feat, Panache Paragon permanently gives us the quicken condition, giving us 1 extra action that we can only use for a tumble through or demoralize attempt. Now that we're level 20, let's go over the pros and cons of this build. For starters, death is a distant memory for you. With our high base HP, luck, dodge reactions, and temporary HP, it's going to be tough to even get us on the ground. Of course, if our HP ever does drop to 0, we can just not die instead. Then use our ungodly speed and agility to hightail it out of there. Third, we actually make a pretty good face for the party, and we can even get some decent income in if we find an audience for our sad boy songs or if someone wants to listen to our Boneyard stories. For cons, we're spread a little thin on proficiencies. We're legendary in acrobatics and intimidation like a good Pumpkin King should be, but we miss out on a bit with performance, athletics, and deception since we kind of want all of those too. We also don't really specialize in pumping out damage. We're more of a dodge tank with a cool utility weapon doling out frightened conditions, which is cool, but it's no rogue or fighter. We also spend 95% of the build with a negative wisdom modifier, so hopefully no one tries to scare us back or we might be in trouble. No wonder Oogie keeps trying to take over the town. The weakness Jack has is the one thing he's supposed to be good at. Hey, if you're still here and enjoying what you see, why not subscribe so you get notified whenever we post a new video. If you're looking for more character builds, you can check out the playlist on the screen right now. And if you're feeling really generous and you want to help me make more builds for you, consider joining the Patreon like these lovely people. Their support goes a long way towards improving the channel and every bit helps. Link is in the description. With that, play more Pathfinder and have a happy Christmas.